Welcome out to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio. We have a guest flying in digitally all the way from West Hollywood, DocJenFit. Jenna Scare, how are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. So we've known each other for a little while, which is always fun for me when I get to have people on who I've known like in real life. And then we get to talk about entrepreneurship and business and stuff too. So tell us just a little bit about yourself. Like, what's your elevator pitch of who Jen is?
I am a doctor of physical therapy here in the Los Angeles area. I work privately for myself, which has been fun, just out of a couple gyms here in the LA area. And then I created a mobility program so that I can empower other people to get out of their own restrictions and dive into their bodies. It's been super fun.
Awesome. And so you've always been active and fit. Like, we met because you were coaching Pilates, right? Has that been a lifelong thing, or has that kind of been something later in your journey?
Totally a lifelong thing. When I was growing up, it was a requirement actually growing up that we had to be in a sport growing up. And so from elementary school all the way through high school, you had to be in a sport. Obviously my mom wanted me to carry that into college so that I can get a scholarship,
Right.
but I quit when I was 16. So I did gymnastics from like 8 years old to 16. And that was like my life. That was everything. And then I quit. I did track a little bit, did dance a little bit, because I was like, oh, I can't be a cheerleader if I make fun of them so much. And then while I was coaching gymnastics, that's when I got introduced to Pilates. And that's when I was like, I fell in love with the movement. It reminded me so much of gymnastics conditioning and just kind of felt natural to me. So I started diving into that, but it was still like, I was always asking the question, but why? Why am I modifying something? What is the pain? Why can't I know? Or why am I taping an ankle for a gymnast? Like, what is really happening? And is this good? Is it bad? So I'm always finding myself asking why. So it just made sense for me to like, physical therapy was going to be my thing.
That's interesting. So I think so many people just kind of treat the symptom and don't think about the why of why
Right.
they're hurting. And now that I think that happens a ton physically, but I think that also happens in entrepreneurship, right? And so how you became a doctor of physical therapy, and you've always been, as long as I've known you, really about just staying mobile and staying active. But how is that starting to translate into now your business and what you're doing?
In terms of taking it online now and everything?
Yeah.
It's interesting. Definitely going from like working on people in person to getting more online. It's like, I'm like, oh, I can relate to my clients who sit in front of a computer all day long. This kind of sucks.
Sure.
So it's interesting in my own body in that way, to remind myself to move, to remind myself to get up. How am I sitting? How am I doing these things? And then in terms of being able to connect with people on another level, because now I'm not in person being able to connect with them, but how am I showing up as a person to be able to with from across seas and make sure that they hear my message, they get what is happening, they can feel it in their own body, and the responses, I know when I'm connecting with someone when the response and the results are there.
Gotcha. That's interesting. So you started as running your own practice as a doctor of physical therapy. And then I know you launched your initial mobility challenge, right? How did that go? And how'd you come up with that as your idea of what to do first?
Well, I was lucky. I sat down with someone named Ray Harder, who is amazing, and she's in the online fitness space as well. And she kind of helped me structure. I knew I wanted to do a challenge to kind of introduce my program. And after reading Jeff Walker's book as well, Launch, he talks about all these things and steps that you take to being able to launch. And so I knew a challenge was going to happen. She kind of said, everyone likes when I add in a little gratitude at the end of a challenge, or at the end of a workout, why don't you add something like that? And it just kind of made sense. And as I started to record the videos for the challenge, I found that most of everything I was talking about within it was all gratitude. I was like, do you guys understand what you just did? And I would relate back to other clients and other people that I've met along my journey who have had, bilateral amputees and are running marathons, or junior or juvenile rheumatoid arthritis and are doing yoga and running and cerebral palsy and living alone, so like these people who have quote unquote limitations, but are living at their utmost capabilities. that's why I say, like, if you don't dive into what your body can do and understand your capabilities, you don't even know what you're capable of, right? And so that's where we get held back, or we fall into these restrictions and the pain, and we wait for pain to come before we actually want to do something about it. So that was really what it became about. It became about, let's add a couple mobility stuff, but let's really take it back to, do you realize what you just did? You reached overhead. Do you know how many people can't do that?
Right.
Appreciate what you have now and what you have the ability to move into. And that had opened up so much. I mean, the responses that I was getting back from that challenge were unbelievable. It was really like so heartwarming. So many people did it. I got almost 11,000 people into the challenge on the first time.
Whoa, that's huge.
It's huge. Yeah. So it felt, and just like the responses, it was everything. It was amazing.
That's really cool. So you, and I really like how you incorporated that. I know gratitude's a kind of a common theme among a lot of internet entrepreneurs. And I think it's interesting. I think the image of just the entrepreneur right now is changing, right? I think it's, and I know you mentioned mentors, and you mentioned a couple of people that I know as well. How important to you in business and in what you're doing are having good people around you and mentors?
Everything. I mean, I know when I was first getting into the online world, and like, I have these Instagram friends, and some were creating programs. And
Right.
even though they're early on in it, I said, hey, why don't we get together and we do a little like mini mastermind every once a month kind of thing. And so I started bringing together these people who were starting to create programs so that we can feed off each other, so we can learn from each other. And then through, just meeting people and being exposed to different people, I was able to ask new questions and get to the opportunity to reach out and just ask. And I really learned that from Jesse Itzler.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know who he is?
I do.
So
100
funny.
Mile Man, right?
Yeah. And his speech, when I heard him talk, it was mostly about like, just do, and just like get out there and ask the questions, and fake it till you make it kind of thing, and see what happens, apologize later, but just ask, just reach, just do it, and see what happens. And so that gave me, it was actually at that conference where I was like, okay, let me reach out to Lori Harder, like not that close to her. I don't know if this is going to work, but let me just see if she'd be willing to sit down with me. And she was, which was she's so generous and so gracious. But, and I've just continued to ask questions, continue to really stay open and want to learn from other people. And then how can I provide value for them?
Awesome. Yeah. Jesse was one of those guys I hadn't heard of until I saw him on stage, and was just totally impressed by what he built by just like doing it and then figuring it out later.
Exactly.
Yeah. Very cool stuff. And so you started like reaching out to like multiple kind of small mentors,
Mm-hmm.
and then but different mentor kind of for each phase of what you were working on, right? So when you're getting ready for your big launch, you reached out to one specific, and that helped.
Yeah.
What would you say, like kind of boiling that all down to someone who's trying to figure out what they want to do,
Mm-hmm.
wanting to surround themselves with more positive people, wanting to find a mentor? What advice do you have for them?
I would say you have to find out what it is that is going to be your driving factor, first of all. Like, because I've had friends as well who create programs, they do okay, and they, and they're kind of all over the place. The programs kind of hit and miss, and they're just kind of scattered. And that's because they're like, well, I think people want this, and I think people want that, but they're not really honing in on their one, like, what is it that you really want to bring people? What is it that you think is missing? And I think when you figure out your intense reason of why, and you come into that just complete and utter passion, like, you're going to know where you need to go, who you need to ask, who you need to be surrounded by, and it's going to start to drive off of that. And you also do want to listen to whoever your audience is, or whoever you want your audience to be. I knew that I wanted to bring people mobility. I knew that people were going to want mobility, but I still did an Instagram live to ask, what would you guys want from me? Everyone said mobility. I did a survey to say like, hey, if I could bring you something, what would it be? And I asked just like 6 to 7 questions, made it really basic and easy. Again, mobility won. So I knew that not only was I heading in a direction that I wanted to go in, but I was going to fulfill a lot of needs that people were asking for.
Yeah. Now you already had a pretty good size following, right? So you had the ability to be able to speak to your community.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not everyone has that. What would
No.
you say to those people if they don't have that community yet? What advice would you give them?
Collaborate like crazy, and really don't be afraid again to reach out, to sit down and offer to buy someone a cup of coffee. Or I mean, I sit down with young student physical therapists all the time who are in the LA area, because I want to get them to broaden their mindset and think outside the box and know that there's more that they can do, and offer help wherever I can. So I do sit down with young people all the time and offer my time in that way. And people are going to be willing to give back. So don't just ask them. I also have been asked, well, what do I do? Well, it's like, well, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I don't know. You have to figure that out for yourself. So
Right.
come prepared with like wanting to help and give them value, and then wanting to just soak up everything you can from them, knowing that you know exactly what it is you want to do. But if you come completely lost to someone, it's just going to bug them. It really is.
Right.
So I think you have to have like your clear idea of what it is that you want to do within yourself first.
Yeah.
And then, be able to soak up what you can from a mentor. And then what also helps with that, in collaborating with, even if they have big audiences, and building a connection with someone, is then you can go back and say, hey, do you mind posting this in a story that talks about my challenge? Or you can share, or do you mind sharing this on your email list, or whatever it may be, and however you think is best for that. You start to build those relationships so that it becomes a win-win. You're giving their audience something that would be helpful for them, and they're giving you, exposure. So you don't have to have this huge audience, but if you
Sure.
can start just building in that aspect, I know that's super powerful. Other people do, what is it called? The summits online.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I know Shanda Sumters is really huge on that. I'm being asked all at the same time right now, because they're all going through her program. But
funny.
that is a really great way, if you can create a good summit, that people would be interested in. It's a great way to pull experts together and get opt-ins that way.
Sure.
So there's
Very
lots
cool.
of different ways. I think it's more about the connections that you can make and the networking that you can pull yourself out and do.
I think that all boils down back to what you said about it. Really, you have to know who you're serving and know what your why is before you can go try to collaborate, right?
Yes.
You can't go try to make these connections or do any of these things until you have your purpose and your direction of what you're building. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you might be providing value, but it's not going to translate to anything long term.
Yes.
So I mean, again, for you, it's almost like, man, like it's been a calling. You just knew it was about helping people move better.
Yeah.
And that can improve other parts of their life, right?
Yeah.
What distractions have come up that have you've had to push back away in order to stay focused?
Wanting to do lots of other things, which I've already launched another program. I'm like, oh, what am I doing? This is not even. So I kind of, and I noticed. So I did another challenge, and I launched into the same program, but then I also was like, well, you can get 1 month free if you hop on right now to this other program as well. But I lost people. And I felt that immense disconnection on the first day. And that's kind of what I'm talking about in terms of really being connected and knowing when you're connected, results will show. And not that I'm trying to just do it to get these results, but I'm doing it to really know that I'm talking to people, that they're connecting with me, that they're getting what they could be valuable within their body. And I hate to lose that connection, because then I lose the ability to have someone feel that for themselves. So I know I launched, and the first day I felt immediate disconnection with myself and not getting enough sleep, with just the responses and people being like, I'm confused. Where is that? And so I changed it that night. I completely changed it. I was like, nope, going back to the old thing. I'm going to focus on this right now, because this is what I really want people to understand and get. And the next day I woke up, I did a live, I talked about it, I connected with people. I felt their response back to me. They were saying how much they were opening up, and they were like, oh my God, this makes so much sense. Thank you for talking about it. And the moment that I was able to make that connection again, I was like, yes, it's it's back in, and the results started to show. So it's all about showing up, you have to show up too. Like, I think a lot of people get scared of like, well, what if I say something stupid, or people don't like me, or people like, and then you just start putting these judgments on yourself, you know? And it's like, you got to just let that all go. And just, this is truly your passion, if this is truly what you want to do, it's going to show.
You know, it's interesting you brought up that last part, because one of the biggest challenges probably recurring on my show for the last 10, 8 years now, since I first started this radio show, was that challenge of kind of like, now we use the term haters, but like, how do you handle that? Because what's crazy to me is how often that's actually from people that we thought we were close to. Mm-hmm. Right. And so, you're saying, oh, you just have to let it go. And I think for some people it's harder. Right. And, totally. I'm sure it's hard for everybody.
Yeah.
When you realize, if you're, no matter what you do, if you start living big, some people are going to try to pull you back or be bothered by it. And you just have to focus on the people you are benefiting, right? Mm-hmm. The people you are helping.
Yeah.
And that not everyone should be your customer or should be in your sphere, right?
Right, which is totally fine. And I've had that mentality since I've been a therapist to going into the online world, where it's like, listen, I'm not going to help everyone. Not everyone's going to respond to me. Not everyone's going to respond to my treatment. If you get better with a chiro or an acupuncturist, by all means. But it is when I have that connection in person, it is when I have that connection online or anywhere else, that they're going to start to not only buy into the method, but into me.
Right. So you've been, preaching kind of mobility and movement, but you mentioned a couple of things during this conversation about you started to not get enough sleep when you were busy, right? So what are kind of your main pieces of advice for taking care of your body to, let's just say, to the entrepreneur? What do they need to do to take better care of themselves?
Sleep. I know that's hard for me. Sometimes I even have to pop meditation into my ear and to get everything to just like shut up.
Yeah, that's been my biggest crux for sure.
Yeah. So definitely, I would say meditate during the day, even if it's like 10 minutes. Meditate during the day, because it will help you sleep at night. And I carry my notebook around me like everywhere I go, because then I can write things down anytime I need to. So I recommend, I like writing things down. It makes me feel like, because I know I'm going to go back to it. I'm going to read it. Some people like to just put it on their phone, whatever it is for you. Yes, notebooks, whatever it is for you, but if you can meditate at least 10 minutes, especially allowing yourself to get back into that parasympathetic system, because I think as an entrepreneur too, it is always about go, go, go. And we get into these high levels of stress. And as a therapist, this is the one thing that I work on with clients the most, is getting back into their breath and literally just being able to breathe again. Because if we're staying in that sympathetic, high stress environment, you're telling your brain over and over again, I am stressed out, I am in danger, and you're going to just like spill cortisol through your body all day long.
And you use a lot of doctory stuff right there.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. So if you stay stressed, you feel like crap. I don't know. Does that work? Is that a good summary?
Well, it's like, this is how I explain it. So if you get scared and someone scares you, you tense up and you breathe into your chest, right? But imagine breathing into your chest all day long. You're telling your brain you're always in this scared, stressful state. And so what that does, and it drives like this thing called cortisol, which increases pain and causes inflammation and all this stuff. So if you are living with chronic pain, it's probably due to literally how you're handling your stress and how you're breathing within your body. And then breath goes back and it affects the gut. So even if you're eating well, you might not be breathing well, which is automatically going to affect your gut health as well. So crazy, it's all connected. So breathe. Put one hand on your chest, one hand on your belly. See if you can expand through your belly and your lower rib cage, and breathe. So some people have a hard time with meditating. I say, okay, then just lay down and breathe. Put one hand over your chest, one hand over your belly, and focus on your breath. Where is it coming from? Are you able to breathe in and out through your nose? Because also, if we're like always mouth breathing, we're actually not getting enough oxygen out to our brain, out to our body and our muscles. So it's like you're not going to be thinking as well or clear throughout the day. So again, this is a biohack for an entrepreneur. You
I
want
love
to
it.
think clearly, breathe through your nose as much as you can, and breathe from your lower cage, that low rib cage, not that upper rib cage, because then that's where you're going to get to that relaxation, release more oxygen, and make everything happy.
So far our two biohacks for entrepreneurs are sleep, meditate, and breathe, right? Those work together.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not mentioning any movement. I'm sure that's got to be in there too.
I
right?
know. Totally. I mean, release endorphins, make yourself happy. Even if it's like getting up off your desk and dancing for a little bit, turning up the music, anything that you can do to just kind of move.
You
For
posted
me,
a dance party the other day, or
I
on you.
did on my story. I was
Yeah.
like, I need this, like, and who cares what you look like? It's fun. Lori and Chris do it all the time. They do dance breaks when they're working as well. And sorry, in
It'll
LA.
pass. Yeah, it's fine. No worries.
Sirens. But yeah, so getting up and dancing or just moving, go to the gym. I like to, sometimes it is hard to like motivate myself to get off my computer. So I will literally reach out to a friend and be like, hey, I need you to kick my butt. What can you do for me? And that forces me, now I have a commitment to someone else, or I'm going to sign up for a class, so I have a commitment to show up for that class.
Right.
So it gets me up and moving.
Awesome. So that accountability sometimes really helps.
Huge.
For me as like, an entrepreneur, the challenge is almost always all of those things. Right.
Yeah.
So whenever I go through like a big transition in business, like it seems like everything takes a back seat, and I sleep horribly.
Exactly.
I'm not meditating, I'm not focusing on those things, and my movement stops. Right. So, but I really like it just really is starting with little improvements. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So commit to that next, either, hit the gym for a class, or, do the Tony Robbins and just jump on your little trampoline. Right. So you just got to get moving.
Get moving.
That's awesome.
I agree.
So if people want to learn more about you, where should they go?
DocJenFit is where, on Instagram, is where I post all my educational stuff. So all my videos for any kind of pain that you have, you can probably scroll through and find. And I host my challenges there, which have been absolutely amazing. This last challenge too, it's like even more people came in, and it's been really, really fun to just be able to empower people to get back into their bodies.
So tell us a little bit about what the challenge is, and if, maybe when the next one's coming up.
Yeah. So the next one I actually want to do around my birthday, yay, which is in April. And this one is going to be about donations to charities. So before, it's always like I give a prize, I give away an Apple Watch, a Fitbit, like all these cool things. But this time I don't want it to be about prizes. I want it to be about donation for my birthday. And the greatest gift for me is really seeing these results from people being able to dive into their bodies and open up and feel what it feels like to really experience gratitude and appreciation, and people end up with less pain out of like a couple movements a day. I'm like, guys, it's not the movements, it's actually like the mindset. But it's been amazing. So the mobility challenge is just a 7-day challenge. It's we go through the entire body. So we start at like the chest and the shoulders. We go through a little bit of gratitude and meditation. It takes 10 minutes a day. That's it. So it's like super doable as well. And and then if you want to win it, you post it to your Instagram.
Awesome. So 7 days of moving, gratitude, and then sharing, right? So,
yes.
And the next one won't happen till April. So if people missed that challenge, how do they like start moving? How are you helping them?
My Instagram.
Just go and follow it and figure it out.
Well, because I post everything, like literally from SI pain, IT band, and I explain it all. Like, what is this IT band? Is it really like your IT band that's causing knee pain, or could it be coming from somewhere else? So I explain the body a lot too. My captions are relatively long a lot, but save it. Everyone does. No one. I get like more saves than likes on.
Oh, how funny!
Post.
That's awesome. That's hilarious. That's cool. I think that's pretty uncommon. That means you're sharing real content, not just stuff to double tap and move forward, which is really cool.
Right.
What so I'm kind of bouncing back and forth, and I hope that's okay, between how people should take care of their bodies and just kind of your journey as the entrepreneur. So since we kind of hit that tennis back and forth, what are your big goals for this year? Like, what are you seeing as the future of DocJenFit and what you want to do?
I really want to just continue to reach more people. So right now I have a couple of speaking gigs booked for next year and, or this year, I guess I should say. It is this year now. And I just want to continue to see how I can reach out and help more people dive into their bodies. So
very cool.
I'm
so
open.
Just scaling and growing, which is good because so many people, like you mentioned, focus on the next thing rather than just continuing to improve that thing that they're helping and working on already. And again, to me, all of this is about, like, for me, business is about creating the lifestyle you want and the life that you want. Kind of that whole concept of create a life that you don't need a vacation from. But that also means, for me, it's about doing things and experiencing things. What's one major item on your bucket list that you're going to achieve this year?
Ooh.
I know you're going somewhere fun really soon. That might not been on the bucket list. So, what's something else?
It really is just, I don't know that I can say, honestly.
That's okay.
It's really just wanting to help more and more and more and more people and really open this up so that I can touch more people and have them experience what I think everyone should feel, which is within their body and where their restrictions are, how they can get out of it, how they can move into it, how they can prevent pain and relieve injury right now. So that's really what I want to empower people to do. And just the more that I can help do that, my goal is to raise a lot of money for my birthday. So that would be awesome.
Which charities are you hoping to support the most through that?
It might be Pencils of Promise, since I'm heading down to Guatemala pretty soon. So I'm pretty inspired by them. And so we'll see. Awesome.
All right. Any last messages for our listeners about how they can move better or what they need to hear from you?
It takes 10 minutes a day to start to explore your body and relieve pain. And you don't have to live with aches and pains. You can explore your own body. So just start moving and explore my page, because I'm sure you'll find plenty of stuff to do. And start moving and breathe. Breathe.
I love that one so much. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming out. Now, my wonderful listeners out there in the world of radio and internet and all those great things, it's your turn to go out and do something.
Thank you for listening to BizNinja Entrepreneur Radio with Tyler Jorgensen. Please make sure to subscribe so you're first to hear new interviews and episodes. If you found this podcast to be valuable, please share it with a friend. Don't forget to visit our online dojo at bizninja.com to claim your reward for listening to the show.